Hello, my name is Ari Waldman. I'm a person who stutters. Today is my video Tanya day. Hold on a second. 57. Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020, the 7th of Tevet, also my wife's Hebrew birthday. Here it goes. Daily Chabad.org, daily study, daily Tanya, Likutei Amarim, beginning of chapter 8. Tuesday, the 7th of Tevet, 5781, December 22nd, 2020. V'od zot b'ma'achalot asurot shelchach nikraim v'shem isur. There is an additional aspect in the matter of forbidden foods, for which reason they are called isur, bound and attached. Mipnei she'af mi achal me'achal isur below hoda l'shem shamayim la'avod Hashem b'choach achila hahi. Even if one ate of forbidden food unwittingly, and his intention in eating was for the sake of heaven, i.e., in service, in order to serve God, with the energy derived from it, had the food been permitted, the very act of eating for the sake of heaven would suffice to extract the good from the evil of the food's vitality. As explained above, in this instance, however, forbidden food was eaten for the sake of heaven. V'gam pa'al, ve'asa kain, ve'kara v'hitz palel, b'choach achila hahi. Moreover, even if he actually carried out his intention, having studied and prayed with the energy derived from that food. Again, that had the food been permitted and the person studied and prayed with the energy provided by the food, the energy would be elevated to sanctity. But because the food was forbidden, ein hachayut sheba ola umit labeshet b'tevot haTorah v'atfila kamo haheter. The vitality contained in it does not ascend or become clothed in the words of Torah and prayer that he studies and prays with the energy of that food, as is the case with permitted foods, mipnei isura bidei hasitra achara mishalosh klipot hatameot, because it is held captive in the power of the sitra achara of the three unclean klipot, which do not permit the energy of the food to be elevated to sanctity. Va'afilu hu isur derabanan shechamudim divrei sofrim yoter midivrei Torah chulei. This is so even if it is forbidden by reason of rabbinic prohibition, for the words, i.e., the prohibitions of the scribes, are even more stringent than the words of the Torah. V'lachein gam hayetzer hara v'choach mit'aveh lidvarim hasurim hu shed mishedin nuchra'in shehu yetzer hara shel umot ha'olam shen nifshotehem mishalosh klipot hatameot. Therefore, the Yetzer Hara, evil impulse, and the force that lusts after forbidden things, is also one of the non-Jewish demons, which is the Yetzer Hara of the nations, whose souls are derived from the three unclean klipot. They therefore lust after forbidden matters, since the forbidden matters too derive their energy from the three unclean klipot. Ma she'ein kein hayetzer hara v'choach hamitzaveh lidvarim hamutarim lemalot ta'avato hu she'ed mishedin Yehudain lefi sheyachol lachazor lekedusha kidil el. On the other hand, the evil impulse and the craving force after permissible things, even when done solely to satisfy one's craving, in which case, as mentioned earlier, even the permissible matter descends into the utter evil of the three unclean klipot. Still, it is one of the Jewish demons. It is as it were a Jewish evil impulse. For it, the vitality of a permitted thing can be reverted to holiness, as was explained above. Since the food itself is permissible, therefore, though it was eaten to satisfy bodily desire, it can still be elevated to holiness. When the person returns to the study of Torah and the service of God, the Yetzer Hara for forbidden matters, however, is intrinsically un-Jewish, i.e., essentially foreign to the Jew's character, as explained elsewhere. One acquires this foreign Yetzer Hara by immersing himself in permitted pleasures. These so coarsen him that he begins to lust after prohibited matters as well, a desire totally unnatural for the Jew. Ach mikol makom kodem shechazar likedusha hu sitra achara uklipa. Although the vitality of permitted foods, eaten out of bodily desire, can revert to holiness through the person's repentance, nevertheless, before it is reverted to holiness, it is sitra achara and kalipa. V'gam achar kach har shimu mimenu nishar davuk baguf. And even afterward, after the person repented and elevated the energy of the food to holiness, a trace of it remains attached to the person's body. Liyot ki mikol ma'achal umaksha nasa teichef dam uvasar mibsaro. Since each item of food and drink that one ingests immediately becomes blood and flesh of his flesh. Since the food which becomes his flesh and blood was evil at the time of consumption, having been eaten for the sake of bodily pleasure, a trace of klipa remains in the body even after the person has repented and elevated the vitality of the food to holiness. Lachein sarich haguf lechibut hakever lenakoto uletaharo mitum ato shekibel bahanaat olam hazeh. Hold on a second. Jan, can I use your phone? Is your phone? Where is it? Okay. Hold on. I'm just going to go to the computer because one of my computers died. Just bear with me. Tanya. Okay, just hold on. Didn't do that one yet. Where do you start from here? Ach mikol makom kodem shechazar likudusha hu sitra achra uklipa. Although the vitality of permitted foods eaten out of our bodily desire can revert to holiness through the person's repentance, nevertheless, before it has reverted to holiness, it is sitra achara and klipa. V'garm achar kach. And even afterwards, after the person repented and elevated the energy of the food to holiness, a trace of it remains attached to the person's body. V'gam achar kach har shimu mimenu nishmar davuk baguf. Liyot ki mikol ma'achal mashke nasa tekef dam uvasar mibsaro. Since each item of food and drink that one ingests immediately becomes blood and flesh of his flesh, since the food which becomes his flesh and blood was evil at the time of consumption, having been eaten for the sake of bodily pleasure, a trace of the klipa remains in the body even after the blood has repented and elevated the vitality of the food to holiness. V'lachein tzarich haguf l'chibut hakever l'nakoto u'letaharo mi tum'ato shekibel b'hana'at olam hazeh v'tanugav mi tumat klipat noga v'shedin Yehudain. That is why the body must undergo the purgatory of the grave, a specific punishment for the body, in order to cleanse it and purify it of the uncleanliness which it had received from the enjoyment of mundane things and pleasures, which are from the impurity of the Klipa Noga, of the Jewish demons, i.e. the Jewish Yetzer Hara, which desires permitted matters. Ela imkein mi she lo nehena me'olam hazeh kol yamav. Unless one had never derived enjoyment from the world all his life, i.e. either he actually derived no enjoyment, or his enjoyment was not of this world, since all his actions were completely for the sake of mitzvot and holiness. Rabbeinu HaKadosh, as was the case with Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Judah the Prince, who said at the time of his demise that he had no enjoyment of this world, even to the extent of his small finger. He never derived pleasure from the world all his life, need not undergo purgatory of the grave. However, anyone who has not attained this level must undergo punishment to purify his body of the uncleanness received from the